In an earlier video, I showed you how to fit bearings into a press-fit bottom bracket shell. I demonstrated this using my giant Defy, which has machined aluminium inserts, hence they should be very well aligned. For many carbon fiber frames, the bottom bracket bearing cartridges go straight into the carbon in the frame. This has led to complaints with the focus on the bottom bracket shell being distorted. I've put together a simple CAD model here to demonstrate this. For instance, the two sides of the shell may be out of alignment, or the holes not parallel to each other. The end faces may not be parallel. The hole may not be round, or a combination of these distortions. This has led to complaints about fitting difficulties, short bearing life, and creaking from the bottom bracket. In this video, I'm going to look at different types of bottom bracket bearing cartridges and how they may or may not help with these issues. First of all, let's look at a two-piece system where the left and right-hand cartridges are completely independent. As these press direct into the frame's bottom bracket shell, the bottom bracket shell is completely responsible for the alignment of the bearings. Therefore, if your frame's bottom bracket shell is distorted, the bearings will not be aligned, and therefore they could suffer some of those problems I mentioned earlier. This is the most common type because they tend to be lower price. I've successfully used these type of bearings in my giant Defy frame, and if your bike doesn't suffer from any of those bottom bracket shell distortions, these should work perfectly fine for you too. Some bottom bracket cartridges may look like a single piece, but really are a two-piece joined by a dust cover. Let's look at the other extreme. If you're having problems with your bottom bracket bearings caused by distortion of the bottom bracket shell, and/or you just want the best of the best, then go for the so-called one-piece system. I don't have one of these because they're very expensive and I'm a cheapskate, but I'll use this one to represent them. The one-piece system, as you might expect, is in one piece. Like the two-piece system, it presses directly into the frame. However, it just presses from the one side rather than both sides. Because the bearings are encased in a single tube, and the frame set should conform to the bottom bracket cartridge, and therefore the bearings remain in line. As I previously stated, these one-piece systems tend to be expensive, although it is almost guaranteed to be able to fix those bottom bracket distortion issues. However, you do need to be careful that you can push the bottom bracket cartridge in from the one side of the frame. For instance, as shown here on my giant Defy, there's a step on the inside, which means you can only push the bearings in from either side, not just from one side. As you might expect, there's a middle way. This is a two-part system. However, the left and right-hand cups join in the middle, usually by a screw thread. The thread allows you to clamp the two sides of the bottom bracket cartridge across the bottom bracket shell. This can be a useful solution if the bottom bracket shell diameter is oversized, and therefore press fitting on its own won't work. In addition, although not nearly as rigid as a one-piece system, the thread in the center does help to keep the two ends of the bottom bracket cartridge aligned. If the bottom bracket shell has major distortions, this pseudo two-piece system is not likely to help. However, for minor distortions, it can probably mitigate some of the problems. This type of bottom bracket cartridge tends to be more expensive than the completely two-piece system, but somewhat less than the one-piece systems. So it's actually the middle way in multiple ways. This is the part of the video where I usually try to say something humorous. But apparently, there's nothing funny about a creaking bottom bracket. So I'll finish with this. On YouTube, you'll find no shortage of people ranting about press-fit bottom bracket. But remember, ranting is the way they get views. Perhaps I should try that. From an engineering point of view, press-fitting bearings like this is just normal practice and is a good solution. So provided it's manufactured well, there's nothing wrong with a press-fit bottom bracket. There's no reason why a threaded bottom bracket should be any better. In fact, there are reasons why it may be worse.